Amy Semple McPherson. How many of you know who she was? Did you ever meet her? I didn't know if you were too young, and how often do you hear that? Amy Semple McPherson she really created the mega church. She was a Pentecostal preacher, and Sue David's Broadway show was about. And she, in the 20s, she used to go out and tent 20,000 people. 20,000 people. And then she decided, enough of this. I don't want to be on the road all the time anymore. So she built a 5,000 seat church in Los Angeles. And she had 27 services a week, 5 on Sunday.
Wow.
And she was busy. And she wrote operas. She wrote plays, she wrote books, she wrote just individual songs. If she was doing a story of the Noah's Ark, there were animals coming down the aisle. I mean, she did theatricals. Charlie Chaplin gave her sets. I mean, it was a thing. But above her pulpit said, Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I thought about that because we're not Pentecostal, in case you didn't know. But it is a biblical statement, and I thought about it, and I thought in unity, that is true. That is also true. How does that apply in truth here? Because Jesus Christ metaphysically is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus Christ is not the man. It is the awakened being, the awakened person. And that's what, in metaphysics, Jesus Christ means. It doesn't mean him. It means me in my awakened state. And so I always appreciate it when we can take the Bible and use it practically and understand it practically rather than practically applying it. You get the difference, don't you? Apply your spirituality practically. Don't practically apply it. and so to begin to look at things differently than ever before. And this week we're still in the second book of Samuel, and we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant. And David there in the second book of Samuel is looking to get the covenant, the ark, over to his place, where it belongs. And because David is highly spiritual, he has done his work. He has absolutely done his work. Now what I want to read to you so you can understand, and because I didn't count on myself to remember, the Ark of the Covenant. Not Noah's Ark, it's a whole different ark. And it says, represents the original spark of divinity in man's being. So we're not talking about a physical object. We're talking about that. You know that thing? That. Can we all try that? One more time. One more. How about that? Do you get it? Doesn't it make sense now? It's like, oh, that's logical. Imagine. Oh, that makes sense. No, we're not crazy. So, represents the original spark of divinity in man's being, which is a sacred and holy thing. On its development depends man's immortality. The original spark, or the Ark of the Covenant, occupies the most holy place in the body temple and must be cared for with great devotion. Otherwise, the spiritual forces are scattered. It says, no human hand is allowed to touch this Ark of the Covenant. No human thought can enter the sacred precincts, which are kept veiled from all eyes. Well, it's like, holy smokes. I'm supposed to treasure this thing. I'm supposed to value it, but I can't see it or touch it. That's the... I can't define it. I can't put it in a box, but I can know it. That holy, sacred thing. That's what I call today's talk, the spark of the ark. That holy, sacred thing about us. That's the good that I was referring to in the meditation. The good that I am, that has always been, always is, and will forever be. That good, that capital G good, that I cannot make bad. No matter how hard I try, I cannot make that spark in me bad, that good in me bad. I can behave like the last spiritual lunatic. And still, the good that I am is. And here's the deal. Somebody else can behave like a last lunatic, and the spark of divinity is still in them, and no matter what I try to say about them, I cannot take that away. I cannot make them bad. What a relief. So we can get, here's the problem, relief and problem. We can get together and we can chat about those, those people. All we want, and it will not hurt them. But it does say here, the original spark occupies the most holy place in the body temple and must be cared for with great devotion, otherwise the spiritual forces are scattered. And so if you and I get together to talk about, who, her, him, them, we are scattering our spiritual forces. Now, I know it's fun to get together and scatter forces. It's a good time to get together and scatter our spiritual forces. You can put on a whole show scattering, and you can charge a cover. You can do all sorts of things. 2-drink minimum cover, 2-drink minimum to scatter your spiritual forces all over the place. Get good reviews. You can do it all. But you have not treated your ark as holy. And so, I ask you, what are you telling about yourself, first of all, when you look in the mirror in the morning? Do you scatter your forces, or do you gather them together? You say, "Hi, God." And you look in the mirror, "Hi, God." You have to smile when you do that, in case you didn't know. You just have to smile. "Hi, God." "Hi, God." Who's going to do that? Who's going to look in the medicine cabinet mirror? "Hi, God." To acknowledge this is what God looks like. This is a God being looking right back at me here in the mirror. And so to gather your spiritual forces together, to acknowledge the holy being that you are. You don't have to define the holy being. You don't have to know how you are a holy being, because trust me, it's not based on your behavior. Thank goodness. We as holy beings, it has nothing to do with our behavior. It has nothing to do with our thoughts. It has to do with our I am. It has to do with what we are, not how we behave. However, if I take the time to acknowledge this holy being that I am, on a regular basis, like every 10 seconds, because I need that many reminders, I will probably do less scattering. I'd be so busy acknowledging the holy being that I am, that who's going to have time to scatter my spiritual forces? Do you agree? I know a couple of people. I've heard one wonderful deep voice somewhere there agreeing. Was that you? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Marty agrees with me. I must be right. So, the metaphysical interpretation of the ark in Jerusalem here. And my friend Greg Nettler says, all that we are comes forth from a central spark of divinity within us. You hear that? All that we are. It doesn't say all that we have. It says all that we are. You okay with that? All that I am comes from this central spark of divinity. This central spark is represented by the Ark of the Covenant, as it was the most important and holy thing in the tabernacle. So it is the most holy aspect within man. The sense-conscious person is often unconscious of this divine spark. All of this attention and interest is drawn by outer things and conditions. With this consciousness separated from its divine spark, life becomes difficult. Anybody? When you're scattering your forces, here's how you might make a connection. When you think, or I think, that I have to figure it out, life becomes difficult. When I think it's up to me to figure out a spiritual solution, my life just got hard. Anybody? Can you identify with this? Make sense?
Yeah.
Good. That's fantastic. Now, are you willing to consider, I don't have to figure out the solution, but the solution is available. The solution to any challenge that I see, any difficulty that I see, is available. So I've got to think then, well, what's my part in the solution? What is my part? Well, here's one suggestion. Doesn't it seem like it might be easier to drive around town looking for answers than to sit and be quiet? I should call somebody. I should do something. No, I'm not saying you're not going to call somebody. I'm not saying you're not going to do something. But first things first. This applies to the so-called real world too. Yeah, I've heard people say, well, Shawn, that's all nice here above the Ford dealership, but in the real world, there's the government, there's taxes, there's bills, there's this, there's that. No. Those are all symptoms to be able to practice what we study here above the Ford dealership. Sometimes doing that can be as close to hell as anything I can imagine. The silence, the being still. But what? Yeah, but I should at least get busy praying to get fixed. Please God, give me this. Please God, and all the time I'm begging God I could be. And you'll notice that didn't take very long. That hardly took any time at all. See, you said that way you still have hours to worry. You have hours and hours to panic. You have all that after you've done this. Just a few times through with that. Just a few times through with it. I can see that there's a few of you who are very antsy while I'm just doing that. There's a couple of you. We've got to do this, got to do that. Even while I'm just being still for a moment. I promise it's a viable solution to all that ails me. I cannot promise you that you will have an instantaneous healing in the material world. I can tell you it's possible. I've had them. I know others have. So I know instantaneous healing is possible. Healing of various aspects of life and issues. I promise you that you will have the beginning of a healing in mind by doing that. I promise. So anyway, so Greg says, The sense-conscious person, is often unconscious of this divine spark. All of his attention and interest is drawn by outer things and conditions. With this consciousness separated from its divine spark, life becomes difficult, the forces scattered, and the results frustrating. When we are able to unite the heart center and the spark of divinity within, we establish a substantial spiritual basis from which to live our lives. In this awareness, we discern that working with divine law brings good, while working against or outside of divine law brings difficulty and suffering. Centered in love, or the divine presence within, we understand the promise. And this is the promise. All things whatsoever the Father hath are mine. All things whatsoever God has is mine. All things good is mine. All the stuff is mine. Whatever is right, whatever is true. Think on these things. Think on these things. Centered in love or the divine presence within, we understand the promise. All things whatsoever Spirit has are mine. See, all love. So think about, what is it that God has? Does God have love? Well, God is love, so God has love, so I must have love. Wisdom, well, God is wisdom itself, so God has wisdom, so I must have wisdom. Intelligence, well, God is intelligence itself, so I must have intelligence. Presence, God is presence itself, so I must be able to be present. Intelligence, God is intelligence, God is power, God is this, so I must have them. And so to get logical within our difficulties. The other day I was complaining to David about something, and because I was experiencing fear that my good was not present and was not going to be present. Even while I was, and he would not enable me. He would not enable me. And I said, oh yeah, I know, that must be hard. Why did I send you down on? Giggling back. But I knew, as I told him, there's a solution to this. There is good in this, and I shall find it when I open to it. And within 10 minutes, I was open to it, and I got it. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, I had it. I had the good that I had been seeking in the material world. But I first had to do the inside job. I first had to acknowledge it is possible. It is possible to have what I want. It is possible to have the team I need to help me get it. And it is possible. And so I've proven it once again. But you guys, I know some of you, those, oh man, you're some manifestors, over and over again, the things, the stuff, the attitudes. It's really, a couple of you here, your attitudes amaze me. They so impress me, and I think, oh, that's who I need to be listening to today. And I have a friend who's in early recovery. Friend, I mentor him, we'll say. And he's in early, like 28 days. And day 22, he said, oh, I just feel like I'm yesterday's news. And I said, it's not a fashion. Sobriety is not a fashion. It's not something fashionable. And they said, I just need more days behind me. I need more days behind me. And I thought that, and I said, no, you need more days under you. You need a firmer foundation. A firmament, as it is called in the Bible. We need more healthy days under us. Days of pursuing wisdom. Days of pursuing love. And when I say love, I mean understanding of the laws of these things. Days of pursuing I am. And the understanding of the law surrounding that. That's what we need more days of. I'll read one last thing to you. It's John chapter 16 from the Holy Spirit's interpretation, and it says here, one will is within you, so that the one you serve is yourself. Capital S, self. This is your purpose, to serve yourself fully. This is the purpose for which you were created, so that it is this that will bring you the greatest of joy. But within you also there is a great resistance to your one true joy. For this part of your mind does not know your joy, and it does not know you. It will tell you that you are what you are not. We hear that? That part of your mind that forgot God will tell you that you are things that you are not. It will insist that following the path of truth is to follow the path of falsity, and that in following the path of falsity you will surely die. Listen not to the voice that does not know you. Heed not its warnings, for the light is in you, and you are the light. Darkness cannot be your way. Remain focused on the light, and you remain focused on your truth. Stay with the light, and you stand firmly on the path of joy and truth. The path of light is found within. Always it is within that guides you. Seek not to find your path without. Seek not to find your path without, for to seek without is to deny who you are. Seek within, for because of who you are, the answer must lie there. And so, I think we've been taught today that the ark, the spark, the divinity is within us. Do you accept that? Do you desire to know that? Does it thrill you to know that? Is it a great relief to know that? To be reminded once again of what all of us, not just you, me, all of us, we have always known. Each of us have always known that. That's why we participate in correct perception. It is why, because nobody does that hoping not to get the answer. We do correct perception so that we may see. We do it so that we may be set free. Are you thrilled today to hear what you have always known and can now use once again because you remember fully? I'm thrilled. Thank you.